Hey, everybody. My name is Brian Lerman. I'm on the marketing team for the Center for Social Change, and I'm here with Gonzalez from Grants Inc. She's putting together an amazing three-part series in grant writing. We're calling it the Do It Yourself, the DIY grant writing series. And Lorinda is here to tell us all about it and why you should register now if you need to apply for funding for your organization ASAP and receive sustainable funds throughout your entire fiscal year.
People who are responsible for grants a lot of times don't have support. So it's a requirement that they have of their job, or the organization just needs, to bring in funds to grow, but they don't really have anyone that can guide them and provide them direction on how to do this. And it's one thing to say you're going to do a grant application. It's a whole nother thing when you sit in front of the computer and you have it in front of you and you don't really know what to put or what to say or how to say it. So that person that is kind of overwhelmed with that has been in that experience where they're really pressured to do the grant writing, but they feel confused and they feel like they're kind of alone in this. That's the perfect person for this class because they're going to receive feedback from us, which is great, and also from other people within the class that have also had experience with grants. So it's very much, like a supportive, empowering environment to do grants versus being alone and scared doing it on your own.
It's the DIY grant writing series, right? So it's not just this
Yes.
intensive workshop, this part 3 that we're talking about, but there's also a part 1 and 2. Tell me a little bit about those and how they tie into the third one. And then also go into why should somebody attend all 3?
So part 1 and part 2 are going to be more lecture style, and they're an overview of our process. So the reason that we've been so successful as a company is because we have a very different approach to grant writing. We have a very positive and empowered approach to grant writing. We don't see the money as being scarce, and we don't see it as being impossible. We see it as a problem and there's a solution to it. So we have a very specific process. So part 1 and part 2 really is going to go over the industry of grants, what grant writing is. Also, it's going to go over the research aspect, how to do that, what that looks like. And then part 2 is going to go into more of the strategy and organization, because there's a lot of strategy that goes behind grant writing. It's not just filling out an application, sending it, and that's it. You have to strategize and plan out your year. So the first 2 workshops are good because they give you like a foundation of an understanding of how this works, which leads into part 3, where we're going to use those concepts and actually put them into practice. So part 3 is the practical application of the actual grant writing and research. So what's different about part 3, what's really unique about it, is that we're going to actually in person do live grant writing. Students will be assigned a grant to work on. And we're going to finish it from beginning to end. We're going to actually draft it together. You're also going to be provided a list of 40 plus foundations that you could potentially in real life apply to. You're going to use that real list and vet them yourselves, and then create yourself a work plan that you can go home and use in your, within your organization. And then at the end of it, so we're going to do the research part, we're going to do the grant writing part. You're actually going to get to present your grant to a group of funders, which is us. And we're going to score you on it and give you real, authentic feedback on your proposal. And then the idea is at the end, if that's a proposal you really want to submit for your organization, you can do so at the end. So you get to do a grant, which could normally take a person a month to do. We're going to get it done in a day. So it's a very intensive, very, one-on-one situation. And what's cool is that, the students will be broken up into groups. So you get to work amongst each other. So you get to learn from each other, from other people that have done grants. And then you also have us there that are giving you real life feedback.
Let's say somebody can't make it to parts 1 and part 2. Can they still attend part 3?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would still recommend it, especially if they have some kind of background or some kind of understanding of the grant world. We're still going to go over those concepts briefly within the practical, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. But if you're ready to put pen to paper and actually start the grant writing process, then part 3 is definitely the one.
What are the 3 big things that they're going to learn from this workshop that's going to make a big difference for their organization that maybe they can't learn anywhere else?
So I would say number 1 is going to be the research aspect. They're actually going to be provided a list of foundations that entailed over 100 hours of work on our end to create that research report. They're going to have access to that. So they're going to have that as part of what comes with the class. So they're going to have a research report that they can take home and use that to do, future grants. They're also going to have the opportunity to work with reviewers, because we're going to be reviewing their application in person, which is something that in the real world doesn't happen. Once they send out a grant application, that's it. They have to just wait till they get approval or denial. In this situation, they're going to be able to send us their grant application. We'll review it on the spot and give them feedback. So they're going to get feedback before they've actually submitted it in the real world. And then on top of that, they're going to get templates. So they're going to get templates on the proposal, on an outline that they can go back and use in their real, in their real life to do future applications. So those are three things that they probably wouldn't find elsewhere.
So they're getting like real-time feedback from the workshop that they otherwise wouldn't get, because you submit a grant and then it goes out and then you don't hear back until maybe it's too late, right? You get a denial and you don't know why. Sometimes you ask for feedback and crickets, right?
Exactly. So like in this situation, there's an extra step in that they get to draft the grant proposal with someone overseeing it, right? And then once it's done, they get to present it, and then they're actually getting that feedback before they really send it out. So with that feedback, and what we've had when we've taught this class before, is people have used that feedback, submitted grant proposals that have been successful. So they get that extra bonus.
How would you say their organization would be different if they implement what they learn in this workshop?
The biggest thing that's going to be different is that they're going to feel empowered about grant writing versus scared of it. So grant writing tends to be like the one task that, nonprofit organizations have to do because they need to get in the funds, but it's a thing that's the most mundane. It's boring, it's stressful, like people don't like it. So after taking this class, they're going to feel empowered because they're going to have support. They're going to have guidance. They're going to have templates. They're going to have research already done for them. So they'll go back to work empowered and say, what, now I have a plan. I know how to do this. And that's what my hope for everybody is, that they really feel, supported and empowered, and they don't look at grants negatively anymore. And they look at it as, a great way that they can expand their programs.
And what's at stake if they don't come? Like, what are they missing out on here?
So the biggest thing is that they're missing out on would be that number one is the research, right? So just that alone, 100 hours of research can cost thousands of dollars to have that done. We have access to a lot of systems that we can do research. So we're able to, provide that as a resource. So that would take months and months and months for them to do on their own. So that's a huge thing that they would miss out on, is not having access to that. If nothing else, that alone is valuable. But aside from that is getting real-time feedback and understanding what the funders are wanting out of their applications. Because I've had, I'm really lucky that I'm able to see what funders are looking for. I work with a lot of funders directly, a lot of local funders, and we've had communications, and I've actually been called into funders to say, hey, what do you think about grant applications? So we've been able to work with funders, and we understand exactly what they're looking for. So the feedback that I'm giving comes from their mentality. And that's something that you wouldn't find in another place.
Lorinda, if people want to register for the workshops and get started right now, how do they do it?
So you will go to the Center for Social Change's website, which is the number 4 socialchange.org. Click on events page, and right there you're going to see the direct links to register for the classes. It's a 3-part workshop. So there's 3 separate workshops. The first one is the D.I.Y grant writing series part 1, which is going over grant writing and research. That's going to be March 17th at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Center for Social Change. That one is $15 for non-members. And if you're a member of the Center for Social Change, it's free, which is awesome. The second part, which is going to go over the strategy, the development of grants, and also is going to go over best practices, is going to be March 26th, also from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Center for Social Change. And again, just like the first one, it's $15 for non-members and free for members of the center. And then the third one is going to be April 3rd and 4th. It is a 2-day workshop. It's going to be Friday the 3rd in the evening for a couple of hours. What's really cool about that is that's the day that we're going to set up our project. You're going to be assigned the homework, you're going to be assigned the grant, and we're going to start thinking about it. So you can go home and start thinking about how you're going to go about developing a program for the next day that's going to be very impactful. We'll start at 10 in the morning, and we're going to, hit the ground running and actually do that research, the writing, all that good stuff, and get that practical stuff done on the 4th of April, which will be like from 10 to 6 p.m. And that one is $325 for non-members, and then members of the center receive a 20% discount on that price. The class has to be capped, which I'm glad I have you on the phone now, or on video, is like we can't do a 15 is an absolute max. Like there's no way to do, because we have to break everybody up in groups. So we could do with 15, we could do 5 groups of 3, and that's already like a lot.
Yeah. So 15 is the cap, right?
Absolute cap.
Like when should people register for this thing? So
people should register ASAP, really quickly, because the thing is we already have people that are interested in the workshop. People are already starting to register. So, the faster you register, the best, because we can only accommodate 15 in order to have that intimate group and that intimate setting and be able to do the group work that we're doing. So registering sooner than later is highly recommended. Is there anything else that you want to add, or anything else you want to share with a potential student who would consider taking any of these workshops with you? That it's not like other grant writing workshops. I personally have taken hundreds of grant writing workshops online, in person. And what I find that's lacking is that it's not practical work. They tend to teach the theory. They tend to teach overviews of grants, which is great if you want to be a grant consultant. But when you actually are responsible for writing grants. You're actually responsible for submitting grants, and you have to do this as part of your job, as part of growth for your organization. You need to learn a quick, fast, easy, streamlined way to get this done. And that's what these classes, all of them teach. It's the exact same process that we use internally to get grants for our clients. And it's the same process that I teach. There's nothing that I'm hiding or whatnot. Everything is very open and very transparent. And so we give you that framework to actually get the work done versus just learning the theory of how to do it. So I've been in the grant field now for 10 years. We've brought in, just the grants that I personally have written has been over $14 million so far. Most of that in the past 5 years, I would say. If you were to include the grants that clients have earned or people that have, been to our classes, the number would be significantly higher. I do grants all the way from federal, local, like municipality grants. So I've done kind of the plethora of them. I have a bunch of different certificates, national certificates. I'm certified grant writer. I go to DC. I was in DC this last year 4 times, working directly with the grant managers at the federal level in the same classes that they're taking. I was able to take those classes as well and learn the inside operations of how federal grants work. So I've done a lot, and we've done hundreds of applications, worked with hundreds of nonprofit organizations, mostly in the United States, mostly in Miami, but also internationally. So my name is Lorinda Gonzalez. My company is Grants Inc. I'm the director of the organization. I work with the Center for Social Change. I've been working with them now for multiple years. We have our office space within the Center for Social Change, and we also work very closely with them because our missions are very much aligned. We, both believe in supporting local nonprofits and supporting the local community to create real social change. And the reason that I do this is because I have had the experience of working with very large nonprofits that have almost unlimited budgets. And I work with very small nonprofits, and there's a huge gap between the two, and that you see that a lot of these big guys are getting lots and lots of funding and the little guys are not. So I'm really, really focused on the little guy and wanting to support the small and the mid-sized nonprofits and give them the access to the same exact knowledge and experience that the big guys would get. So my real big thing is that people are so afraid of grants and they find it to be overwhelming and stressful. And I don't. I actually really love it. So I'm here to share the information and to help empower people to know that they too can do this. And once you figure out the system and your process, you also can grants for your organization, big or small.
Thank you so much for sharing all that with us.
Absolutely. That was really good.